We interrupt this program to bring you...
Black Network. BET was a dream come true.
BET was like the best thing since the straightening comb in the hood. Like, that was it, man.
BET is an idea that needed to exist.
Anyone who's familiar with the BET Awards and the BET Hip Hop Awards can't deny that in recent years the award shows haven't been that great. The performances feel lackluster, the energy from the crowd isn't there, the shows are heavily catered to younger audiences, and overall it just doesn't feel the same. What was once culture's biggest night is now nothing more than a mandatory annual family reunion that we never look forward to, but for some reason feel obligated to watch. So how exactly did we get here? Some fans of BET say that the award shows have been on a steady decline for years, but surely there has to be a deeper explanation of how something that was once a cultural landmark has lost almost all of its charm. So let's start with a small history lesson on BET. While African Americans slowly began to see themselves represented on television in the early 20th century with shows like Amos and Andy and Room 222, it was very sparingly. Towards the 70s and 80s, more and more black sitcoms like Good Times, Sanford and Son, and What's Happening, which mainly aired on channels like ABC and CBS, became staples in many black households. You also had the rise of Soul Train, a black musical variety show that spent over 3 decades being the beacon of black joy. So it was clear that there was a need and demand for more black representation in mainstream media. Therein lies the birth of BET. BET was founded January 25, 1980 by Robert L. Johnson and his wife Sheila Johnson, and was dedicated to showcasing a broad spectrum of black entertainment media. Shows like Video Soul, Rhapsody, and Planet Groove shed light on black artists and aired music videos that were less likely to be aired on channels like MTV. BET even aired youth talk shows like Teen Summit, and the network struck gold in the 90s with Comic View. Their programming included but was not limited to sports shows, news segments, game shows, talk shows, and most notably, its award shows. But before diving into the award shows, I want to talk briefly about UPN, because as we move from the 90s into the 2000s, black entertainment media takes a bit of a shift. UPN was a cable television network that was launched by Viacom in 1995 and was notable for its many original black sitcoms, such as One-on-One, Moesha, Girlfriends, The Parkers, Everybody Hates Chris, and The Game. It was also home to the annual Source Awards, also known as the Hip Hop Awards, which aired on the network from 1995 to 2005. Make note of the year 2005, because from that year forward, BET would be on a slow but steady decline, but we'll touch on that later. In the year 2000, the owners of BET ended up selling to Viacom for $3 billion, and while a lot of older BET viewers marked this as the end of BET, some marked the early 2000s as BET's heyday. More reality programming like College Hill and Baldwin Hills would be aired on the network, alongside shows like 106 & Park, How I'm Living, and BET Uncut. Although there's some debate on when the demise of the network truly began, I want to emphasize how big of a milestone BET was for black culture. The music, the entertainment, the joy, the raunchy, and the wholesome. There was a time where whenever you entered a black person's home, they were no doubt watching BET. BET wasn't just any channel, it was the IT channel, and that's what made the BET Awards so special. The first ever BET Awards was held in Las Vegas, Nevada, June 19, 2001, and was hosted by comedians Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer. The BET Awards was one of the first few all-black award shows, alongside the NAACP Awards, the Soul Train Awards, and the Source Awards, and it highlighted artists that were more likely to be overlooked at bigger award shows. The BET created a system that was for us, by us, appreciating black culture in all of its essence. This is why so many big names would show up for the awards show. It was truly culture's biggest night. The first awards show included performances from artists like Usher, Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, Eve, Patti LaBelle, Luther Vandross, and Whitney Houston. A crazy lineup. Celebs were nominated for awards such as Best New Artist, Viewer's Choice, Best Music Video, Best Actor, and more. As the years went on, different black comedians would host the awards show, including Monique, Damon Wayans, D.L. Hughley, and Kevin Hart, and celebrity appearances from the likes of Beyonce, Prince, Mary J. Blige, and Michael Jackson would be made. The first ever BET Hip Hop Awards was held in Atlanta, Georgia, November 12, 2006, and was hosted by comedian Cat Williams. The Hip Hop Awards was the adjacent show to the BET Awards that focused strictly on hip hop and rap music. This show included many different categories, including MVP of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Producer of the Year, and Hip Hop Track of the Year. There were also some categories that would show up a few times and never again, like Best Ringtone Song, Best Hip Hop Dance, and Best Hip Hop Movie. The first award show included performances from Ludacris, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Jeezy, and T.I., as well as 2 ciphers and a Hip Hop Icon Award presented to Grandmaster Flash, both which would become staples of the award show. The Hip Hop Awards was known for being a lot more crunk than the BET Awards, which was known for having a variety of musical acts from different genres. Regardless, the atmosphere for these award shows were always extremely lively and hype. It was normal to see people up and dancing, and the best part is that it was all authentic. There was no fear of looking like a fan or being too cool to let loose and bask in the glory of black culture. The performances themselves were also extremely well put together and creative, and you could tell the artists were honored to have the opportunity to bless the BET stage. So when did BET Awards start to lose their charm? Well, in order to talk about that, we have to briefly speak on when the network as a whole lost its charm. Let's go back to the year 2005, as it was a big transitional period for BET. For starters, Debra Hill became the CEO and chairman of BET in 2005, a position that was previously held by the founder of the network, Robert L. Johnson. The programming of the network had become predominantly music-based, and the majority of the music programming revolved around hip-hop and R&B. While there's nothing wrong with hip-hop and R&B, BET was starting to lose its variety. 2005 was also the year that 106 & Park hosts AJ and Free would leave the network, and this is where many fans of the network started checking out. In the following years, a lot of BET original programming such as Comic View, College Hill, Rhapsody, BET Next, BET Nightly News, and Black College Football would be canceled. Mind you, this is after they had already canceled shows like Teen Summit, Video Soul, and Planet Groove. Considering that BET was now owned by Viacom, who also owned UPN, a lot of that network's programming such as The Parkers and Girlfriends was moved to BET, where they had aired constant reruns. BET was starting to run stale and very quickly became known as the Rerun Network. If you felt like watching a few episodes of Martin while you cleaned up, or wanted to keep the kids occupied with Moesha, BET was the channel to go to, but consumers weren't tuning in as much for the original content anymore. This only worsened throughout the 2010s. In 2014, 106 & Park, one of the last few shows that was holding the network together, was officially canceled, and I believe this was largely in part to streaming. With more artists releasing music videos directly to YouTube, there was no real need to wait for music videos to air on television anymore. 2014 was also the year that many streaming platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime saw a spike in users, so consumers were moving further and further away from cable television. And with BET continuously showing nothing but reruns, there was no real reason to tune into the network on a consistent basis anymore. BET was no longer the it channel, and didn't have the cultural impact it once did. The only reason people were still tuning into BET was for the award shows. The BET Awards was the last bit of hope for the network. Throughout the 2010s, the BET and BET Hip Hop Awards were actually still pretty good. There was still an amazing sense of camaraderie between the musicians, the energy was still extremely lively, the music was good, and there was a variety of genres and artists being appreciated. The ciphers were great, the hosts were funny, the crowds were actively participating, and the award shows felt like a special event. The BET Awards started declining around 2016. The 2016 award show is most remembered for Kendrick and Beyonce's performance of Freedom, as well as the many Prince tributes that took place that night. However, after this award show, they would progressively become more and more forgettable, with a few standout performances here and there, but nothing major. Although I will say the 2019 awards were pretty good. As the years went on, fewer and fewer A-list celebrities started to show up to the award shows, bringing down the viewership and the quality of some of the performances. Beyonce and Kendrick haven't been back since 2016, J. Cole and Nicki Minaj haven't returned since 2018, and a lot of younger artists right now don't have as much cultural impact as those that came before them. Now, that's not to say that they're untalented, because there's a select few that bring their A game every time, notably Megan Thee Stallion, Chloe Bailey, Lil Nas X, and Lizzo. But with the impact of streaming, microtrends, and social media, it's very hard for good songs to stick. So when Beyonce is on stage performing her Billboard Top 10 hit while blowing like a goddess, the crowd and people watching at home are no doubt going to be hyped. Whereas when artists like Chloe Bailey performs a song that didn't chart nearly as well, while she still does an amazing job, the performance isn't nearly as memorable. The performances aren't hitting because the music isn't sticking. The award shows are suffering from the era of streaming because new artists come up and fall off all the time, and it's very hard to have an organic hit as well as longevity in the music industry. So a lot of performances are extremely forgettable because we either have no clue who the person is or we've never heard the song before. Then we get into the travesty that was the 2023 BET Awards. The BET Awards this year were a hot mess. For starters, it was extremely centered around hip-hop with little to no performances by R&B, soul, or pop artists. The tradition of having a more comedic host was broken as it was hosted by Fat Joe, and the performances were lackluster to say the least. There was also a tribute to iconic hip-hop songs throughout the decades, and although this year marks the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, it felt more like an attempt to use nostalgia to bring in viewers, seeing as they couldn't pull in many big artists, rather than a genuine celebration of the culture. But maybe I'm biased. Some artists danced more than they rapped, other artists lacked the stage presence to get the crowd going despite having popular songs, and it overall just felt boring and poorly put together. This is also likely due to the writer's strike that was taking place during the same time of the awards show. Nonetheless, this year's BET Awards was no doubt one of the worst ever. And the hard truth to face is that the BET Awards don't hit like they used to because BET isn't the cultural landmark it once was. I can't remember the last time I even sat down and watched BET because there's nothing to watch. Reruns and Tyler Perry originals make up the majority of the network's programming. BET is nothing more than a shell of what it once was. So what do? They try to reel in the younger audiences and appeal to a more youthful urban demographic. But the channel is too far gone. A BET Award doesn't even hold the same weight that it used to. That's why so many people clown Latto when she cried after winning her first one for Best New Artist. It's nothing special anymore. Most people don't even watch the full awards show, but instead just wait for clips to be posted on YouTube and Twitter. While it's still possible for some performers to wake up the crowd and bring the energy and creativity, it's very few and far between. It's clear that BET is in dire need of a rebrand, but with the emphasis on cable television and award shows slowly dying, the future of the network is bleak. And as sad as it is to say, I fear the award shows will only continue to go downhill from here. But hey, we can always hope for the best. If you guys want to know more about the rise and fall of BET, I suggest these 3 videos by Black Femininity TV, NBC Nostalgic Black Culture, and Black Rhetoric, which I'll have links to in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.